The morning sun rose over New Busan just like it had for the past 3 years. Han Bo stood on the metal platform outside the main mining building and watched the orange light spread across the rocky hills. The air was thin here, but the breathing masks helped. Most people were already used to them. 3 months. That was how long it had been since they last heard from Earth. Han Bo tried not to think about it too much, but the worry ate at him like acid in his stomach. Communication delays were normal out here on the edge of known space. But 3 months was too long even for them. He walked down the metal steps and headed toward the communications building. His boots made hollow sounds on the walkway. Other colonists were already starting their day. Some headed to the mines, others to the farms under the big glass domes. Children ran between the buildings, playing games and laughing. It all looked so normal. Dr. Park Nari was already at the communications console when Han Bo arrived. She had dark circles under her eyes. She had been trying to reach Earth every day for weeks now. Anything? Han Bo asked, though he already knew the answer from her face. Nothing, she said quietly. I sent 3 more messages yesterday. Emergency frequency, standard frequency, even the old backup channels. Complete silence. Han Bo sat down in the chair next to her. Through the window he could see the quantum relay tower that connected them to the rest of human space. It looked fine from here, but the technician said all the signals just disappeared into empty space. Maybe the relay stations between here and Earth are down, Park Nari said. There could be solar storms or equipment failures. Maybe, Han Bo agreed, but his voice sounded flat. They both knew that multiple relay stations would have to fail at the same time for complete communication loss. The odds were very small. A young man named Choi Dam came running into the building. He was only 18, fresh from Earth just 6 months ago. His face was red from running. Sir, you need to come see this, he said, breathing hard. Something's wrong with the orbital sensors. Han Bo and Park Nari followed Choi Dam outside. They walked quickly toward the sensor station, a small building near the edge of the colony. Inside, 3 technicians stood around a large screen showing the space around their planet. Look at this, one of them said, pointing at the screen. These readings started an hour ago. The screen showed dozens of small dots moving toward their planet. They were still far away, but they were getting closer, and there were more appearing every few minutes. Could be asteroids, Park Nari suggested. No, the technician said, shaking his head. The movement patterns are too regular, and they're slowing down as they get closer. Asteroids don't do that. Han Bo felt ice form in his stomach. How many? Right now? About 40, but more keep showing up. And sir, they're big. Really big. Everyone stood quietly for a moment, staring at the screen. The dots continued their slow approach toward New Busan. Han Bo tried to think of innocent explanations. Maybe it was a trade convoy that got lost. Maybe it was an Earth fleet coming to check on them. But deep down he knew better. Trade convoys announced themselves. Earth fleets sent messages ahead. Whatever was coming toward them had not said a word. How long until they reach us? Han Bo asked. At their current speed. Maybe 6 hours, Han Bo made his decision. Sound the general alarm. Get everyone to the emergency meeting point now. The alarm started wailing across the colony. It was a sound they had only heard during drills before. People stopped what they were doing and looked around with confused faces. Parents grabbed their children. Workers dropped their tools. Within 30 minutes, most of the colony's population was gathered in the main square. Over 3,000 people stood together, talking in worried voices. Babies cried. Children asked questions their parents could not answer. Han Bo climbed onto a platform so everyone could see him. The crowd got quiet. Friends, he began. Our sensors have detected unknown ships approaching our planet. We don't know who they are or what they want. Until we do, we're going to follow emergency procedures. Voices rose from the crowd. People asking questions, demanding answers he did not have. What about Earth? Someone shouted. Have you contacted Earth? We've been trying for 3 months, Han Bo replied honestly. No response. The crowd got louder. Fear was spreading like fire through dry grass. Han Bo raised his hands for quiet. Listen to me. We have prepared for this. The underground shelters can hold everyone safely. We have food, water, and air for 6 months. The security team will handle any problems on the surface. Security team, an older woman called out. We have 12 security guards and some mining equipment. What if it's a real military force? Han Bo wished he could give her a better answer. New Busan was a mining colony, not a military base. They had never expected to fight a war. Their weapons were meant for dangerous animals and the occasional pirate ship, not a fleet of unknown vessels. "We'll do our best," he said simply. "Right now I need everyone to go to their assigned shelters. Take only what you can carry easily. Stay calm and help each other." The crowd began to move. Families gathered their belongings and headed toward the shelter entrances built into the hillsides around the colony. Parknari organized the medical teams. Choi Dam helped guide people to the right shelters. Hanbo went to the security office. The 12 guards were already there, along with a few volunteers from the mining crews. They had rifles, some mining explosives, and 3 small patrol vehicles with mounted guns. "What's the plan, sir?" asked the head of security, a former Earth military man named Kim Wan. "We hold them off as long as we can," Hanbo replied. "Give people time to get deep into the shelters. Maybe we can talk to whoever this is. Maybe they just want supplies or information." Kim Wan nodded, but his face showed doubt. Military men knew the signs of an invasion force. 2 hours later, the first ships appeared in the sky. They came down through the clouds like dark rain. The ships were black as space itself, with strange angles that hurt to look at. They moved silently, which somehow made them more frightening. Parknari counted them through her medical scope. 27 ships, no, 31. They keep coming. The ships landed in a circle around the colony, but far enough away that the humans could not see details. For an hour, nothing happened. The colony waited in terrible silence. Then the ground began to shake. From the black ships came creatures that walked on 2 legs, but were clearly not human. Even from a distance, Hanbo could see they were tall and covered in dark armor. They moved in perfect lines like machines. "How many?" Kim Wan asked, looking through his rifle scope. "I count maybe 200 so far," Hanbo replied. "But there might be more still in the ships." The alien soldiers began to advance toward the colony. They carried weapons that glowed with strange light. Some rode on vehicles that floated above the ground without any visible means of support. Hanbo activated the emergency communication system that connected to all the shelters. "This is Hanbo. Unknown forces are approaching the colony. Stay in the shelters no matter what you hear. Do not come out until we give the all-clear signal." He looked at his small group of defenders, 12 security guards and 8 volunteers, facing an alien army with technology beyond their understanding. But they were defending their homes, their families, their friends. "Spread out," Hanbo ordered. "Use the buildings for cover. Make them work for every meter. And remember, we're not trying to win. We're trying to buy time." As the alien forces came closer, Hanbo sent one final message on the emergency frequency, hoping against hope that someone, somewhere, might hear it. "This is New Busan Colony to any Earth forces. We are under attack by unknown alien forces. Estimate 200 enemy soldiers with advanced weapons. We are preparing to resist, but we need help, please. If anyone can hear this, tell Earth we tried to hold." The message disappeared into the silence of space, just like all the others. The crystal towers of Nexus Prime reached high into the purple sky. Inside the largest tower, representatives from dozens of alien species sat around a huge circular table. The emergency meeting had been called 3 days ago, and the news got worse every hour. Ambassador Velthera stood at the center of the room. Her blue skin looked pale and her hands shook slightly as she spoke. She was from the Centauri Union, one of the oldest and most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. If she was scared, everyone else should be terrified. "The Vextar Empire has destroyed another star system," she announced to the quiet room. "That makes 17 systems in 1 year. Their fleet grows stronger with every world they take." An insect-like creature from the hive clusters clicked his mouth parts nervously. His large eyes reflected the light from the crystal walls. "How many ships do they have now?" "Our best intelligence says at least 8,000 war vessels," Velthara replied. "Maybe more. They build new ships using the resources from the worlds they conquer. Every victory makes them stronger." A tall, thin being made of living crystal spoke next. This was Chancellor Morden from the Altarian Federation. His voice sounded like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "What about our combined fleets? Surely we can match their numbers." "Our fleets are scattered across the galaxy," replied a furry creature with 6 arms. "We have trade routes to protect, pirates to fight, border disputes to settle. We cannot gather all our ships in one place without leaving our worlds defenseless." In a special section of the chamber sat the human representative. Ambassador Li Wu was a middle-aged man with graying hair and sharp eyes. He wore a simple dark suit that looked plain compared to the elaborate clothes and natural features of the other species. Humans were new to the Galactic Prosperity Coalition. Most of the older races barely noticed them. The coalition had been formed thousands of years ago to keep peace between the major civilizations. Trade flowed freely. Disputes were settled with words instead of weapons, and everyone prospered. But the Vextar Empire cared nothing for peace or trade. They wanted only conquest and destruction. "What about the newest target?" asked a delegate with scales and a long tail. "The human colony." "What was it called?" "New Busan," Li Wu said quietly. 60,000 human civilians live there. Chancellor Morden's crystal form shimmered as he spoke. "The location is unfortunate. New Busan sits in contested space, far from any major shipping lanes. It has little strategic value." "Little strategic value." Li Wu stood up slowly. His voice remained calm, but something in his tone made several delegates turn to look at him. 60,000 people call that world home. They have families, children, dreams. They left Earth to build something beautiful among the stars. "Of course we regret the situation," Velthara said in a diplomatic voice. "But we must think about the greater good." The Vextar chose that target carefully. It is far from help, lightly defended and rich in rare minerals. They want us to waste our ships trying to save it. "Waste our ships?" Li Wu's voice got a little louder. The insect delegate clicked nervously. "Please understand, Ambassador Li Wu. The mathematics are simple. One small colony against the stability of the entire sector. We cannot risk our main fleets for a single world. Especially a human world," added Chancellor Mordan. "No offense intended. But Earth's military contribution to the coalition has been limited. Your species lacks the technology and experience for operations at such distances." Li Wu was quiet for a long moment. He looked around the room at all the alien faces staring at him. Some showed pity, others showed indifference. A few seemed almost pleased that the troublesome humans were learning their place in the galaxy. "You think we lack the military capacity for meaningful intervention?" Li Wu said finally. "It is simply a fact," Chancellor Morden replied. "Earth joined the coalition only 50 years ago. Your ships are primitive compared to ours. Your fleets are small. Your technology is centuries behind the major powers. The Vextar fleet heading toward New Busan numbers over 3,000 ships," Velthara added. "Even if Earth sent every vessel you possess, it would not be enough. You would only add to the tragedy." Li Wu smiled then. It was not a happy smile. It was the kind of smile a predator makes before it strikes. Several delegates moved back in their chairs without knowing why. "Chancellor," Li Wu said in a very quiet voice, "you clearly have not been reading our latest reports." "Reports?" The crystal being's voice carried a note of confusion. 3 months ago, Earth's Defense Ministry submitted updated fleet composition data to the Coalition database. Li Wu explained. "Standard procedure required every year. Did you review those numbers? The Altarian bureaucracy handles such routine matters," Chancellor Mordan admitted. "Surely there have been no significant changes." Li Wu reached into his suit jacket and pulled out a small datapad. He touched the screen several times, then set it on the table. A holographic display appeared above it, showing columns of numbers and ship classifications. The room fell completely silent. "These are Earth's current military assets," Li Wu said calmly. "Would you like me to read some highlights?" Velthara leaned forward to look at the display. Her blue skin got even paler. This cannot be correct. It shows over 3,000 vessels in active service. 3,247 to be exact," Li Wu corrected. "That is just the active fleet. We also maintain reserve forces for emergencies." The insect delegate's large eyes got even larger. "Reserve forces?" "Another 2,000 ships in ready storage," Li Wu replied. "Plus support vessels, supply ships, and specialized craft. Oh, and that does not count the ships currently under construction." Chancellor Mordan's crystal form flickered rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation among his people. "Impossible. Our intelligence clearly shows that Earth maintains only a few hundred ships." "Your intelligence is 50 years out of date," Li Wu said with that same predatory smile. "You have been so busy dismissing humanity as primitive that you stopped paying attention to what we were actually doing." He touched the datapad again. New images appeared in the hologram. They showed massive ships with sleek lines and weapons that looked unlike anything the Coalition had ever seen. These are our newest designs, Li Wu continued. Quantum drive systems that make our ships faster than anything in known space. Plasma weapons that can cut through any armor. Shield technology that we developed from studying ancient ruins on Earth's moon. Ancient ruins? Velthara whispered. Oh yes, we found some very interesting things when we finally started exploring our own solar system properly. Li Wu said casually. Did you know that Earth was visited by an advanced civilization about 50,000 years ago? They left behind some fascinating technology. The room was so quiet that the only sound was the gentle humming of the crystal walls. But surely, the scaled delegate said desperately, even with these numbers, you cannot project force across such distances. New Busan is 67 light-years from Earth. Li Wu's smile got wider. Chancellor Mordan, what is the longest distance the Altarian fleet has ever operated from home? Our maximum effective range is approximately 30 light-years, the crystal being admitted reluctantly. 30 light-years, Li Wu repeated. How interesting. Our standard patrol range is 90 light-years. Our maximum operational range is classified, but I can tell you it is significantly higher. He stood up and walked slowly around the table, looking at each delegate in turn. For 50 years, you have treated humanity like children playing with toy spaceships, Li Wu said. You gave us observer status in the coalition because you felt sorry for us. You assigned us to guard empty space because you thought we were not capable of real military operations. Ambassador, please, Velthara said weakly. We meant no insult. Of course you did not, Li Wu replied. You simply assumed that because we were new to space, we must be weak. You forgot that humans have been fighting wars for thousands of years. We know things about warfare that most of your peaceful civilizations have never had to learn. He stopped walking and faced Chancellor Mordan directly. You want to abandon New Busan because you think one colony is not worth risking your precious fleets. You assume that Earth will accept this decision because we have no choice. You believe that humans will learn to stay in our assigned place and not bother the important civilizations with our problems? What are you saying? The Chancellor asked. Li Wu returned to his seat and began packing up his datapad. I am saying that this meeting is over for me. Earth will handle the Vextar problem ourselves. Ourselves? The insect delegate's voice was high with panic. But the risk. If you fail, the Vextar will be even stronger. If we fail, Li Wu said as he walked toward the door, then you will discover what 8,000 Vextar ships can do to civilizations that have forgotten how to fight real wars. But I do not think you will have that problem. Why? Velthara called after him. Why are you so confident? Li Wu paused at the doorway and looked back at the room full of frightened alien faces. Because, Ambassador Velthara, you are about to learn what happens when someone threatens a human colony. Earth does not negotiate with pirates, we do not abandon our people, and we do not fight fair. He left the chamber, leaving behind a room full of delegates who suddenly realized they might have seriously, deep beneath the Rocky Mountains on Earth. Admiral Song Mi stood in the command center watching dozens of screens filled with data. The message from New Busan had arrived 6 hours ago, carried by quantum relay across 67 light-years of space. It was short and desperate. Under attack by unknown alien forces. Need immediate assistance. The command center was a massive underground complex built into solid rock. Hundreds of people worked at computer stations, coordinating Earth's military forces across known space. The walls showed real-time displays of every human ship, base, and outpost in the galaxy. Admiral, called Captain Yu-J from his station near the main display. All fleet commanders are responding to the emergency signal. They're requesting orders. Admiral Song Mi was 62 years old and had spent 40 years in Earth's military. She had fought pirates in the asteroid belt, led the defense of the Titan colonies against raiders, and commanded the fleet that secured humanity's first colony worlds. Her gray hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her dark eyes missed nothing. Show me our current fleet positions, she ordered. The main wall display changed to show a three-dimensional map of local space. Blue dots marked human ships and bases. The dots were scattered across hundreds of star systems, protecting trade routes and colonies. Earth sat at the center like a bright star. The Third Fleet is currently patrolling the Centauri sector, reported Captain Yu-J. 47, ships under Admiral Park Jin. The 7th Fleet is escorting a convoy near Wolf 35962, ships under Admiral Choi Sang. What about the 9th Fleet? Still in Earth orbit, Admiral. They just finished maintenance and training. 81 ships ready for immediate deployment. Admiral Song Mi studied the display carefully. The blue dots looked small compared to the vast emptiness of space, but she knew what each dot represented. Years of careful planning, advanced technology, and the finest crews in human space. Not enough, she said finally. Captain UJ looked confused. Ma'am? If we're going to do this, we do it right, Admiral Song Mi explained. Signal all fleet commanders. I want emergency recall of every ship not currently engaged in critical operations. Every patrol vessel, every escort, every training ship. Bring them home. All of them. Captain UJ's voice cracked slightly. That would leave our colonies and trade routes completely undefended. For how long? Maybe 3 weeks, depending on how fast they can get back to Earth. Admiral Song Mi nodded. 3 weeks of vulnerability to save 60,000 lives and show the galaxy who we really are. Acceptable risk. She walked to the central command station and activated the emergency broadcast system. Red lights began flashing throughout the command center. Every screen displayed the Earth Defense Force symbol, a blue planet surrounded by silver stars. This is Admiral Song Mi, Supreme Commander of Earth Defense Forces, she began. Her voice would be heard on every human ship, base, and colony in known space. As of this moment, the Earth Defense Force is moving to Emergency Protocol 7. All fleet units will return to Earth immediately for emergency deployment. She paused, looking around the command center at the faces of her staff. Young and old, men and women all dedicated to protecting humanity among the stars. Citizens of Earth and all human colonies, she continued. Today we have learned that one of our worlds is under attack by hostile alien forces. The colony of New Busan, home to 60,000 of our people, has called for help. Some of you may wonder if one colony is worth risking our entire fleet. Let me be very clear, every human life matters. Every human world matters. We do not abandon our own. Captain UJ was frantically working at his station, coordinating with fleet commanders across the galaxy. Admiral, I'm getting confirmations from all sectors. Ships are already changing course for Earth. How long until full assembly? 18 hours for the closest fleets. 48 hours for the farthest. Too slow, Admiral Song Mi said. Signal the reserve fleet storage facility. Begin immediate activation of all mothballed vessels. The reserve fleet was Earth's secret weapon, thousands of ships built during the early colonial period, then stored in massive orbital facilities when newer designs replaced them. They were older, but they were still deadly. Ma'am, Captain UJ said carefully. Activating the reserve fleet will require authorization from the Defense Council and the President. Admiral Song Mi smiled grimly. The President gave me emergency authorization 10 minutes ago. As for the Defense Council, they can complain later. Across the Earth system, things began to happen that had never happened before in human history. Massive orbital shipyards that had been quiet for years suddenly blazed with activity. Automated systems began powering up ships that had slept in the cold darkness of space. At Luna Base, Admiral Kang Hyo received the recall order while reviewing patrol reports. Within minutes, his entire fleet was moving toward Earth at maximum speed. Similar scenes played out across dozens of star systems as human ships abandoned their posts and raced home. The UES Incheon was humanity's newest and largest battleship, 3 kilometers long and armed with experimental weapons that had never been tested in real combat. Captain Kim Do stood on the bridge watching Earth grow larger on the main screen. Sir, reported his weapons officer. All experimental systems are online and ready. The plasma lance is charged, quantum torpedoes are loaded, and the new shield generators are at full power. Good, Captain Kim Do replied. We may need everything we have. In the deep storage facilities around Earth, Dr. Bae Sun supervised the loading of humanity's most closely guarded secrets. Weapons that existed only in theory until now. Technologies reverse-engineered from alien artifacts found on Earth's moon decades ago. Are you sure about this? Asked her assistant, looking at the strange devices being loaded onto transport ships. Some of these have never been tested outside of computer simulations. The Vextar are bringing their best, Dr. Bae Sun replied. We should do the same. Admiral Song Mi watched the gathering fleet through the command center's observation windows. Ships appeared in Earth orbit every few minutes, their blue drive flames visible even during the day. Destroyers, cruisers, battleships, carriers, the most powerful military force humanity had ever assembled. Fleet status report, she called out. Current count, 1,500 vessels assembled and ready. Captain UJ announced. Another 800 still arriving. Reserve activation is at 60%. What about the special projects? Dr. Bason confirms that all experimental weapons are loaded and distributed among the fleet. The new stealth ships are ready for deployment. Admiral Song Mi nodded with satisfaction. The stealth ships were completely invisible to known sensor technology. They had been built in secret facilities, and their existence was known only to a few dozen people. On the planet below, news of the massive fleet gathering had reached the public. Crowds gathered in city centers to watch the ships fill the sky. Some people were excited, others worried. Everyone understood that something big was happening. "Admiral," Captain UJ said quietly, "I'm receiving messages from the Galactic Coalition. They want to know why we're assembling such a large fleet." "Tell them it's a training exercise," Admiral Song Mi replied, without looking away from the display. "Ma'am, they're not going to believe that. No one assembles 3,000 ships for training." Admiral Song Mi turned to face her communications officer. Her expression was serious but determined. "Captain, in 6 hours we will have the largest military fleet in galactic history. Ships armed with weapons the rest of the galaxy has never seen. Crews trained to fight in ways that peaceful civilizations cannot imagine. We are about to show the universe what happens when humans decide to go to war." She walked back to the central command station and activated the fleet-wide communication system. "All ships, this is Admiral Song Mi. In 12 hours we depart for New Busan. We will travel faster and farther than any fleet in galactic history. We will face an enemy that has conquered 17 worlds and destroyed countless lives. They believe they are unstoppable." Her voice carried across hundreds of ships and reached thousands of crew members. "They are wrong. Today, the galaxy learns that Earth's children do not fight alone. Today we show the universe that humanity's reach is longer, our memory more enduring, and our response more devastating than anyone imagined." The fleet continued to grow as more ships arrived from distant systems. Soon, the space around Earth looked like a metal constellation, thousands of vessels ready to carry humanity's fury across the stars. In the command center, Admiral Song Mi looked at the tactical display one more time. Every ship was represented by a small blue dot, but she knew that each dot carried hundreds of crew members, sons and daughters, mothers and fathers, all ready to risk everything for people they had never met. "Time to departure?" she asked. 10 hours, 37 minutes, Captain UJ replied. "Signal the fleet. All ships are to complete final preparations and await jump coordinates." Admiral Song Mi smiled as she watched her fleet prepare for the longest military operation in human history. Somewhere out there, the Vextar were attacking New Busan, confident that no help would come. They were about to learn how wrong they could be. Hanbo wiped the sweat from his forehead as he checked his rifle one more time. The alien attack had been going on for 6 days now, and the humans were losing badly. What started as 3,000 colonists was now down to maybe 300 people, trapped in the old mining facility at the center of New Busan. The building around him was full of holes from alien weapons. The metal walls were burned and twisted. Emergency lights flickered on and off, casting strange shadows everywhere. Through the broken windows, he could see the black smoke rising from the rest of the colony. "How many shots do you have left?" asked Parknari. She was bandaging a wounded miner who had been hit by alien fire during the morning attack. "Maybe 20, Hanbo replied. "Kim Wan has about 30. The others have even less. Everyone was running out of ammunition. The colonists had started with hunting rifles, and mining equipment turned into weapons. They had fought hard, but the aliens had better guns, better armor, and a lot more soldiers." Choi Dam sat by the window watching the enemy through a scope taken from a broken rifle. The young man looked much older now after 6 days of constant fighting. His clothes were dirty and torn, and his hands shook slightly from exhaustion. "I count maybe 50 of them moving toward the east wall," he reported quietly. "They have those floating tanks with them again." Hanbo crawled over to look. The aliens were tall and covered in dark armor that seemed to absorb light. They moved in perfect formation, never making mistakes or getting confused. Their weapons made no sound when they fired, just a bright flash followed by whatever they hit exploding into flames. "What about the other sides?" Hanbo asked. "More aliens everywhere," replied a woman named Li Su from another window. "I think they're getting ready for the final attack." The Vextar had taken their time destroying the colony. They could have killed everyone on the first day, but they seemed to enjoy the hunt. Every day they got a little closer. destroyed a few more buildings, killed a few more humans. They were playing with their food. Park Nari finished treating the wounded miner and crawled over to Hanbo. "We have 8 people who can't fight anymore," she whispered. "2 badly wounded, and we're almost out of medical supplies." Hanbo nodded. He had known this moment would come. They had fought longer than anyone expected, but it was almost over. The aliens had them surrounded with no way out. "What about the underground tunnels?" asked Choi Dam. "Collapsed," replied Kim Wan, the security chief. "They dropped some kind of bomb that caved in all the escape routes yesterday. We're trapped." Through the broken ceiling, they could see alien ships flying overhead. The vessels moved silently through the smoke-filled sky like giant black birds. Sometimes they would fire down at the building just to remind the humans that they were still there. "I've been trying to reach Earth again," Park Nari said, holding up her modified medical scanner. She had turned it into a communication device after the main radio was destroyed. Still nothing. Just empty space. Hanbo looked around at the faces of the people with him. Miners, farmers, teachers, children. Ordinary people who had come to New Busan to build a better life. Now they were all soldiers in a war they never wanted. "Maybe Earth doesn't know we're in trouble," suggested Lee Su. "Maybe the messages never got through." "Maybe Earth knows but can't help," said another voice. "We're pretty far from home." Hanbo didn't want to think about that. The idea that Earth might abandon them was worse than dying. But deep down he knew the truth. They were 67 light years from home, surrounded by an alien army with no way to call for help. Outside, the alien war machines began to move closer. The creatures walked behind floating metal shields that deflected the humans' bullets. Their own weapons could punch through the building's walls like they were made of paper. "They're coming," Choi Dam announced. All sides at once, this was it. The final attack. Hanbo looked at his rifle, then at the small pile of mining explosives they had been saving. If they were going to die, they could at least take some of the aliens with them. "Everyone listen," he said loudly enough for all the survivors to hear. "We've fought well. We've made them pay for every meter of ground. Our families and friends got safely into the deep shelters because we held them here." He stood up, even though alien snipers might see him through the windows. "I'm proud to have fought beside all of you. If we die today, we die as humans protecting our home." The alien soldiers were only 100 meters away now. Hanbo could see their glowing eyes through their helmets. They moved like machines, but there was something cruel in the way they took their time. They wanted the humans to be afraid. "Sir," whispered Park Nari, looking at her scanner. "I'm getting something strange." "What kind of strange?" "Energy readings, big ones, coming from above." Everyone looked up through the holes in the ceiling. The sky was still full of smoke and alien ships, but something was different. The air itself seemed to be shaking. "Earthquake?" asked Choi Dam. "No," Park Nari said, staring at her scanner in confusion. "This is coming from space." The alien soldiers had stopped advancing. Through his scope, Hanbo could see them looking up at the sky too. Their perfect formation was breaking up as they pointed at something above the clouds. Then the sky began to glow. It started as a pale blue light filtering through the smoke. Then it got brighter and brighter until it hurt to look at. The alien ships overhead started moving faster, circling like confused insects. "What is that?" Lee Su asked, shielding her eyes from the growing light. Park Nari's scanner was making excited beeping sounds. "Multiple ships," she said in amazement. "Hundreds of them. Maybe thousands. They're coming out of quantum space right above us." The blue light suddenly exploded into brilliant white. Through the holes in the building, they could see shapes materializing in the sky. Ships. Lots of ships. More ships than Hanbo had ever seen in one place. But these weren't alien vessels. Even through the smoke and distance, he could see the familiar blue and silver markings of Earth's Defense Force. "That's impossible," whispered Kim. "One, Earth doesn't have that many ships." The alien soldiers outside were no longer advancing. They had stopped and were talking rapidly in their strange language. Some of them were pointing weapons at the sky instead of at the human building. Park Nari's communication device suddenly came alive with a voice that made every human heart jump with hope. "New Busan Colony. This is Admiral Kang Hyo of the Earth Defense Fleet. Please respond if you can hear this." For a moment, nobody could speak. They just stared at the scanner like it was the most beautiful thing they had ever seen. This is Hanbo," he finally managed to say. "Colony Defense Commander. We have about 300 survivors barricaded in the main mining facility. We're surrounded by alien forces. Understood, Hanbo, came the Admiral's voice. Hang on down there. Cavalry's arrived. Through the windows they could see the alien soldiers running back toward their ships. The creatures that had seemed so confident and cruel were now moving with obvious panic. Their floating tanks turned around and began retreating at high speed. In the sky above, more and more human ships appeared. They came out of quantum space in perfect formation, like a metal thunderstorm rolling across the heavens. The alien ships that had been circling the colony were now fleeing toward the edge of the system. How many ships are up there? Choi Dam asked, still staring upward in amazement. Park Nari looked at her scanner readings and shook her head. I don't know. My equipment can't count that high. One of the human ships broke away from the main fleet and came down through the atmosphere. It was a transport vessel painted with medical symbols. As it landed near the mining facility, its doors opened and soldiers in Earth Defense Force uniforms came running out. Colony survivors, called the lead soldier. This is Lieutenant Park Moon of the 47th Marine Battalion. We're here to get you to safety. Hanbo stood up slowly, still not quite believing what was happening. 6 days ago they had been alone and forgotten. Now Earth's military was here in force, driving away an alien army that had seemed unstoppable. How? He asked the lieutenant. How did Earth send so many ships so fast? Lieutenant Park Moon smiled as he helped the wounded colonist toward the transport. Sir, when someone attacks a human colony, Earth doesn't send help. Earth sends everything. As the transport lifted off carrying the survivors to safety, Hanbo looked out the window at the fleet filling the sky above New Busan. Thousands of ships, more firepower than he had ever imagined, all here to save 300 people on a distant world. For the first time in 6 days, Hanbo smiled. The aliens had made a serious mistake. They had attacked humans and now they were about to learn what that really meant. Admiral Song Mi stood on the bridge of the UES Seoul, watching the tactical display with satisfaction. 3,000 human ships hung in space around New Busan like a metal storm cloud. She had brought the largest fleet in galactic history across 67 light-years in less than 24 hours. Now it was time to show the Vextar Empire what that meant. Admiral, reported Captain Yu-jae from his station. All fleet commanders are ready and waiting for orders. The colonists have been safely evacuated to the hospital ships. What about the Vextar fleet? 8,000 ships, ma'am. They're formed up on the far side of the planet, probably trying to figure out what just happened. Admiral Song Mi smiled grimly. The Vextar had thought they were attacking a helpless colony. Instead, they had walked into a trap that would end their empire forever. Signal the Vextar fleet, she ordered. Open frequency. The main screen flickered and showed the bridge of an alien warship. The creature standing there was huge, covered in dark scales with glowing red eyes. This was Fleet Commander Krextal, the Butcher of 17 Worlds. I am Admiral Song Mi of the Earth Defense Force, she said calmly. You have attacked human civilians. You have 10 minutes to withdraw from this system. This is your only warning. Krextal's laughter sounded like grinding metal. Foolish humans. You bring 3,000 ships against 8,000. You travel so far from home just to die with your pathetic colony. Is that your final answer? Admiral Song Mi asked. We are the Vextar Empire. We have conquered worlds since before your species learned to make fire. Your little fleet means nothing. Admiral Song Mi nodded to Captain Yu-jae, who closed the communication channel. All ships, she announced on the fleet frequency. Operation Thunderbolt is now active. Show these aliens what Earth's children are capable of. What happened next would be studied by military historians for centuries. The human fleet moved like a single organism, each ship knowing exactly where to go and what to do. Years of training and advanced coordination systems turned 3,000 individual vessels into one unstoppable weapon. The Vextar had made a critical mistake. They had spread their ships around the planet to prevent any colonists from escaping. This put them in a loose formation that was perfect for what Admiral Song Mi had planned. First wave execute, she commanded. 1,000 human ships suddenly accelerated toward the alien fleet, but instead of charging straight ahead like the Vextar expected, they moved in complex patterns that confused the enemy targeting systems. Human ships could turn and twist in ways that seemed impossible, their quantum drives allowing maneuvers no other technology could match. Krextal watched in growing alarm as his carefully planned battle formation fell apart. All ships concentrate fire on the lead elements, he ordered. But the human ships were no longer where his weapons expected them to be. They danced between the alien fire like leaves in the wind. their advanced shields deflecting anything that came close to hitting them. Second wave, execute, Admiral Song Mi ordered. The stealth ships attacked next. For months, Earth's best engineers had worked on vessels that were completely invisible to known sensor technology. The Vextar never saw them coming. Captain Kim Tae led the first stealth squadron as they materialized behind the alien fleet. Target the command ships, he ordered his pilots. Let's cut off their head. Silent torpedoes streaked across space, each one guided by artificial intelligence that could think faster than any living creature. Vextar command ships exploded one after another as their commanders tried to figure out what was attacking them. Third wave, execute, came Admiral Song Mi's voice. This was when the real surprise began. The UES Incheon, humanity's newest battleship, powered up its experimental plasma lance. The weapon had never been tested in real combat. But Dr. Bae Sun's calculations showed it should work. It worked better than anyone expected. A beam of pure energy lanced out from the Incheon and cut completely through a Vextar dreadnought. The alien ship, which should have been protected by meters of armor and advanced shields, simply came apart like it was made of paper. What was that? Krextal screamed as another of his ships disappeared in a flash of light. The human fleet was just getting started. Ships that looked like ordinary cruisers suddenly revealed weapons that belonged in science fiction stories. Quantum torpedoes that could pass through solid matter and explode inside enemy ships. Gravity cannons that crushed alien vessels like tin cans. Energy shields that turned the Vextar's own weapons back at them. How is this possible? Demanded the Vextar commander as his fleet began to fall apart around him. Admiral Song Mi had the answer, though she did not share it with him. Earth had found alien ruins on their moon 50 years ago. Ancient technology left behind by a civilization that had died out long before humans learned to walk upright. For decades, Earth's best scientists had studied those ruins, slowly learning how to build things that seemed impossible. The Vextar had been conquering worlds with the same technology for thousands of years. They had gotten lazy, confident that nothing could challenge them. They had never faced an enemy that improved and adapted and learned from every battle. Fourth wave, execute, Admiral Song Mi commanded. Captain Kim Do brought the Incheon around for another attack run. This time he targeted the alien flagship itself. Fire Nova Torpedo, he ordered. The Nova Torpedo was Dr. Bae Sun's masterpiece. It did not just explode. It tore a hole in space itself, creating a tiny artificial star that burned for exactly 10 seconds before going out. When the light faded, Krextal's flagship was gone. The rest of the Vextar fleet began to retreat. Ships that had seemed so confident and cruel just minutes ago were now running for their lives. But Admiral Song Mi was not finished with them. Pursuit formation, she ordered. Do not let them escape to threaten other worlds. The human fleet split into hunting groups, each one faster than anything the Vextar could field. Quantum drives that could bend space around them let human ships catch fleeing enemies with ease. One by one, the alien vessels were destroyed or forced to surrender. The battle lasted exactly 15 minutes. When it was over, the space around New Busan was full of wreckage and escape pods. Of the 8,000 ships in the Vextar fleet, fewer than 200 had escaped. The rest were destroyed or captured. Damage report, Admiral Song Mi requested. No ships lost, Captain Yu Jae reported with amazement in his voice. Minor damage to 12 vessels. Total casualties, 3 wounded, none killed. Admiral Song Mi nodded with satisfaction. Signal all escape pods. Any Vextar who surrenders will be treated according to galactic law. Any who continue to fight will be destroyed. Most of the alien survivors chose to surrender. 3 days later, Admiral Song Mi stood in the rebuilt colony center of New Busan. The place was buzzing with activity as construction crews worked to repair the damage. The colonists were already coming out of the shelters ready to rebuild their homes. Hanbo approached her with a smile on his weathered face. Admiral, I wanted to thank you personally. We thought we were forgotten. No human is ever forgotten, Admiral Song Mi replied. No human world is ever abandoned. That is a promise Earth keeps no matter the cost. But the cost, Hanbo said quietly. Bringing 3,000 ships all this way, fighting a battle this size, it must have been enormous. Admiral Song Mi looked out the window at her fleet, still orbiting protectively around New Busan. The cost was exactly what it needed to be. Nothing more, nothing less. News of the battle spread across the galaxy within days. The Vextar Empire, which had seemed unstoppable for so long, surrendered completely within a week. Their remaining fleets fled beyond the galactic rim, never to return. At the Galactic Prosperity Coalition, the emergency session was very different from the last one. Ambassador Li Wu sat at the head of the table now, while the other delegates listened carefully to every word he said. The trade routes are secure, he announced. The Vextar threat has been eliminated. Normal shipping can resume immediately. Chancellor Morden's crystal form flickered nervously. Ambassador, about humanity's status in the coalition. What about it? Li Wu asked. Perhaps it is time to discuss a more significant role for Earth in galactic affairs. Li Wu smiled the same predatory smile he had shown weeks ago. Chancellor, that is very generous, but Earth is quite happy with our current arrangement. Current arrangement? Observer status suits us perfectly, Li Wu explained. We can watch, we can learn, and when necessary, we can act. Without all the tedious committee meetings and bureaucratic delays. The insect delegate clicked nervously. But surely Earth deserves recognition for what you accomplished. Your fleet was magnificent. Our fleet was adequate, Li Wu corrected. And before you ask, no, we will not be sharing our advanced technology with the coalition. Earth's weapons stay with Earth. 6 months later, Ambassador Velthara asked the question that everyone wanted answered. How many ships does Earth really have? Li Wu's smile got wider. Enough. Enough for what? Enough to ensure that no one ever again makes the mistake of thinking humans are weak. Enough to guarantee that when someone calls for help, Earth will answer. Enough to remind the galaxy that humanity's promise means something. He stood up and prepared to leave the chamber.